Legacy number 1, she left a legacy of surrender. Serving Jesus is a chance to die. Die to everything that you want to gain what he wants. Number 2, Elizabeth Elliot was passionate about the love of God. Elizabeth, if I'm saying Elizabeth Elliot, it's just Amy Carmichael. Amy Carmichael was passionate about the love of God. Elizabeth Elliot writes about Amy Carmichael. The greatest passion of Amy's life was uttermost love. Just uttermost love. She would pray. She was known to pray every day the prayer of Jeremy Taylor. Lord, do not turn, or Lord, do turn thou me into all love. Transform me into all love, and then all my love into obedience, and let my obedience be without interruption. Oh, I want to be nothing but love. Her favorite line, my conclusion, after reading her writings and reading her quotes, her favorite line was Calvary's love, those 2 words, Calvary's love. Over and over and over, she would tack that on to the end of her statement, her presentation, writing it in her diary, Calvary's love. Here's an example on the screen. If the ultimate, the hardest cannot be asked of me, if my fellows hesitate to ask it and to turn to someone else, then I know nothing of Calvary's love. What she says, whew, straight to my heart. If somebody says, we'd really like to have somebody give a Bible study, but should we ask Mike? Oh no, he'll probably say no, he doesn't. Let's go ask somebody else. If that's what I'm known for, that the hardest task, the difficult responsibility that I shy away from, she says, Amy Carmichael, it's because they don't know the Calvary's love. Because in Calvary's love, when you know Calvary's love, there's nothing that you don't give. There's nothing that you keep when you know Calvary's love. How can a woman like Amy say this? Because of all the tasks, it could be argued that she had one of the hardest. Her calling was to go to a culture not her own, to learn a language in a way that was not familiar to her, and then to come and invite girls, mostly girls, although she had a very influential impact on establishing a home for boys that were also sold into this slavery. But Amy's primary work was girls. She had the task of convincing 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds and 15-year-olds and 18-year-old girls that had been sold by their family to the religious organization. Just catch the psychology of this on these young girls. Their families had sold them to the religious organization, to the gods, because they needed to protect their own family. There was too many children. They had to sell some of them. Sorry, you got to go. We can't support all of you. You're a girl. We've got to keep the boys. The boys are going to be... And they would sell these girls to the gods, to the religious organization. And that religious organization, the gods, would use them in abuse. And then Amy shows up and says, I want to tell you about a God. You want to tell us about a God? We don't want to hear about another God. Amy's task was to share that there was a God who had given up his home to secure their home. It opposed everything they had ever known. Their home had given them up in its self-protection, given them up to the gods, and the gods had used them, sold them, made money off of them. And Amy shows up and looks into the eyes of a 12-year-old girl and says, no, there is a God that loves you, that gave up his home so that you can have a forever home. That's a tough job. And Amy spent 53 years without furlough to communicate that kind of love to those kind of girls.